You're watching ABC 10 Plus This Week.
Hello, I'm Laura Painter. You're watching ABC 10 Plus This Week. California's ban on sales of gas-powered vehicles by 2035 hits a red light. Plus, in dollars and cents, Sacramento slides down Zillow's 2025 major housing market list. And we hit the back roads. John Bartel introduces us to an actress turned rancher who champions Texas Longhorns in California. ABC 10 Plus This Week starts right now.
All right, California's ban on the sale of new gas-powered vehicles by 2035 just hit a red light. The House of Representatives voted today to undo a waiver from the EPA that helped pave the way for the ban. ABC 10's Becca Habegger is in studio to drive this home for us. And Becca, I feel like we just talked about this not too long ago, actually.
Yeah, you know, Alex, I stood right here in this studio back in December reporting on two waivers newly granted by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency that would allow the California Air Resources Board to move forward with that statewide ban. Now, at the time, Republican Congressman Kevin Kiley vowed to fight it, and fight he did.
In September of 2020, Governor Gavin Newsom signed an executive order establishing a goal that 100% of in-state sales of new passenger cars and trucks will be zero emission by 2035, and all medium and heavy-duty vehicles in the state be zero emission by 2045.
We will be the first jurisdiction in the world to require all new cars to be sold to be alternative fuel cars.
The goal was to fight climate change, reduce pollutants that lead to smog and damage people's health, and reduce the state's dependence on fossil fuels in favor of clean, renewable fuels.
I don't think that's an appropriate policy.
Critics, including Republican U.S. Representative Kevin Kiley of Rockland, have opposed the ban this whole time.
I don't think it's the right thing for the government to do, to order millions of Californians what car they should drive. I think it should be up to individuals to drive the car of their choice.
But in order to enact this ban, California would need to impose standards that are stricter than what federal regulations allow. In 2023, the EPA granted California a waiver, followed by two more last December. In response, Kiley posted on X, "We will promptly reverse Newsom's insane mandate in the new year." And that's just what he worked to do.
Today's action really just restores common sense and says that you should be able to drive the car of your choice, and it passed with bipartisan support.
Kiley spoke with ABC 10 on Thursday, the day a majority of U.S. representatives, 200 Republicans and 35 Democrats, voted to withdraw one of those waivers. The day before, the House had already voted to withdraw the other two. Kiley is among the representatives who introduced the resolutions that, using something called the Congressional Review Act, would withdraw the waivers, though they still need the approval of the Senate.
I believe it'll pass in the Senate.
In response to the votes, Governor Newsom said, in part, Trump Republicans are hell-bent on making California smoggy again. Clean air didn't used to be political. Our vehicles program helps clean the air for all Californians and will continue defending it. He and State Attorney General Rob Bonta pointed out both the nonpartisan U.S. Government Accountability Office and Senate parliamentarian have said the Congressional Review Act does not apply to these waivers. Bonta said, in part, not only would the misuse of the CRA undermine the integrity of our democratic process, but it would also be unlawful, adding his office is monitoring the situation closely, including what happens next in the Senate.
I asked the offices of Governor Newsom and Attorney General Bonta for interviews today. They were not available to speak with me.
Don't forget, 10 on Your Side is here to help you find solutions to issues that seem impossible to solve.
Whoever he called, he got that fixed.
Viewer Michelle tells 10 on Your Side she moved into her apartment last summer. She qualified for the California Alternate Rates for Energy or CARE program from PG&E, but she says she never saw the 20% discount. We immediately contacted PG&E, and they sent me this statement saying we've resolved the issue for Michelle and credited their account retroactively by applying the CARE discount, thereby making the customer whole.
Oh, I feel good. Chris handled it. I like that.
10 on Your Side has gotten several complaints about potholes across the capital city, and so I went straight to the top to get answers on what's being done to address the problem. The city says residential streets make up 63% of the city's total lane miles. Many of these need repairs, but with current funding levels, it would cost $52 million annually for the next 10 years to bring residential streets up to a level of good.
As of right now, we're in a fair range. But it's also going to depend on where you're at. Some streets are worse than others, and we're trying to tackle it as best as possible.
An outraged family contacted 10 on Your Side about their 102-year-old father and proud veteran having his voter registration canceled.
It's his constitutional right to vote. And the last I checked, there wasn't a maximum age saying after age 100 you can no longer vote.
10 on Your Side reached out to the Secretary of State's office and they released this statement saying the only age requirement is that a voter must be 18 years or older on Election Day. It was brought to the attention of the California Secretary of State that a voter in San Joaquin County had their voter record mistakenly canceled due to an incorrect determination that the voter record matched a deceased record. The Secretary of State will be providing additional training to San Joaquin County voter registration staff on the list maintenance processes to ensure these errors do not occur in the future.
But a lot of times people might just say, oh, it's just too much trouble, just forget it. So you've now taken a demographic of people who are more likely not to complain or not make a fuss about it, and they've been disenfranchised from their right to vote.
The local hero ultimately had his voting rights restored. And do you have a problem and don't know where else to turn? Email me at onyourside@abc10.com.
In tonight's Dollars and Cents, here's something you don't hear every day. Northern California at the bottom of a new real estate list. A Zillow report of the hottest housing markets in 2025 shows several major California cities were beaten out by markets in the Northeast and Midwest. How is this possible? I turn to a local real estate expert for answers and what these changes mean for you. Generally, you would expect cities in California to top any real estate list because housing prices and demand are so high. But a recent analysis from Zillow is flipping that long-held expectation on its head. Zillow's forecast for the hottest 50 U.S. housing markets for 2025 puts Buffalo, New York at number 1, Indianapolis at number 2. Scroll down toward the bottom to find Sacramento at number 37, outranking San Jose at 48 and San Francisco at 49.
We are not surprised. We have felt it for a while.
Northern California realtor Susan Vallejo says buyers are concerned about affordability and the higher 6 to 7% interest rates they're facing right now.
With the economy, with politics even, I think people are just a little bit more guarded.
It's been tough for sellers too.
We're not seeing multiple offers. We are not seeing very many go over the list price.
The Zillow report looks into several factors like local house value growth and how quickly homes sell. It also considers job growth per new home permitted and expected growth in owner-occupied homes. For Sacramento, Zillow forecasts 0% home value growth and 0 jobs per new home permitted.
Susan, what does this mean for homeowners, buyers, and sellers?
I think affordability is a big deal, for a lot of people. You have to have such a high income in order to live in those areas that you're really pushing out the middle class buyers.
Is there anything the data is not telling us?
One thing to think about is that a lot of people either purchased when we were at the 2.75% interest rates and 3% interest rates, and those people they don't want to lose that.
As a result, there's less incentive for that group of homeowners to sell their homes, and high interest rates are reducing buyers' purchasing power. But Vallejo says don't let that scare you from potentially building your equity and generational wealth.
Rather than waiting for interest rates to come down, if you can afford to purchase a home now, purchase what you can afford. Use this as your nest egg. Start building your own wealth now.
Keep in mind, these real estate challenges come as our region has some of the fastest growing cities in the state. I explore that in a special Dollars and Cents series where I look at why they're growing and what that growth means for your community. You can see those full stories and a link to the full Zillow report on our website, abc10.com, and streaming now on the ABC10 Plus TV streaming app. The app is free to download on your TV. You can also email me your questions at lpainter@abc10.com.
What my parents shared with me, life then was very simple but thriving.
Life was just beginning for Harry and Tammy Wynn. They married in 1970 and would go on to have 2 children and dreams for the future. But the Vietnam War would threaten those dreams.
Clashes with North Vietnamese regulars in the central coastal plain near Bong Son.
The Vietnam War had been raging since 1955. The communist North Vietnam government was at war with South Vietnam. The U.S. joined the fight to support South Vietnam, but in 1973, American troops pulled out. Just 2 years later, communist forces captured the South's capital, Saigon, an event that marked the end of the war and would come to be known as the Fall of Saigon.
When we left Vietnam, right before the fall of Saigon, my father was in the military, and so he knew that his life was going to be precarious if he didn't leave. He was helping out the South Vietnamese. My parents, in the darkness of the night, left. They were the boat refugee people. They left with the clothes on their back. We didn't have anything.
At just 3 years old, Jackie and her family made a life or death decision to escape their homeland by sea. Clinging to the hope of a better future for their children, they decided to head to Guam.
When we got on the boat, we were sandwiched together like sardines. My mom would always tell me, you can't really breathe. The risks were enormous because had we not been successful in leaving, we probably would have been captured and put in re-education camps and not have the life that we have here. Maybe not even be alive.
The fall of Saigon ended the war, but sparked one of the longest and largest refugee crises in history. Thousands died fleeing by sea, while the lucky escaped to camps in Guam, Thailand, and the Philippines. Over 1 million would start new lives in America.
People like my parents and myself, since we were part of that first wave of Vietnamese refugees who came here to the United States and settled here in California.
Jackie and her family becoming part of the 50,000 refugees housed at Camp Pendleton in San Diego, California. But the Wynns needed an American family to sponsor them.
The McManus family live in South San Diego, and they adopted us, just giving us that second chance in life. We call them grandparents.
The Wynns' long-held dream of building a new life in America had finally come true. But different didn't mean easy.
We didn't speak English very well, so that was the social challenge. The economic challenge, my parents didn't have college degrees. My dad worked 3 different jobs. My mother works odd and end jobs, babysitting the neighbors' kids, collecting cans in the morning.
Her family's journey would come to define her not just as a survivor, but as a leader.
They would say, we don't care what you study in college, but you make sure you go to college because that is going to be your foundation to get out of poverty, to make something of yourself.
Jackie would go on to study journalism and graduate from San Diego State University.
Jackie Wynn on the scene. Good morning.
Good morning, Lisa, and good morning, everyone.
I've always thought being Asian American, you always have to go into the medical field, engineering, doctor. The field of journalism back then, for me, I didn't think it was an option. I didn't know I wanted to be a journalist until my dad basically told me, he's like, you know, you should go into journalism.
In 2015, Jackie became the press secretary for the California Senate Republican Caucus.
Who would have thought that you would ever have this opportunity to work for the legislature and to be part of the process to help others out there, whether they're citizens, immigrants, underrepresented, or marginalized communities. In this position I'm in, we have an opportunity to help.
She serves on several boards and recently became a trustee for Solano Community College in 2024.
Thank you to Supervisor Mashburn for being here to swear me in.
The first Asian American to hold the title.
I put up my right hand. In my mind at that time, I was like, Dad, I really wish you were here to witness this in person, to see me. But I know you're up there guiding me.
In 2019,
I remember getting the call.
Harry Wynn passed away.
My dad has always been my hero. I didn't realize that until he passed away. My whole world turned because my dad was the one who's always gave me the suggestions and ideas to be where I'm at today.
He carried her to safety as they escaped Vietnam and through every step of life after.
I just wish that my father was still alive today to see everything that's for me at this point in my life. My brother is a pharmacist. My sister is in sales engineering.
Living the very dream her parents once risked everything to give her.
I think it's important for generations now to understand how much of an impact that time period made, not just only in America's history, but for Vietnam's history as well. I will always be Vietnamese American. That's first and foremost, Jackie Nguyen, Vietnamese American. I'm an immigrant. I'm a woman. I'm somebody who thought that I would never have an opportunity for the opportunities that I've been given in life. And so when you see opportunities out there, seize them.
Today marks 50 years since the fall of Saigon that ended the decades-long Vietnam War. For many Vietnamese Americans, today marks a day of sorrow as they remember losing their home. And for one man in Winters, today is a day where he remembers the actions of his father and the impacts it had on the people of Vietnam and here in the States. ABC 10's Jeannie Nguyen shares the story of Craig McNamara, the son of Robert McNamara, who served as the Secretary of Defense during the Vietnam War. Craig says that he will forever be trying to make up to the people of Vietnam and the U.S. for the actions of his father.
So here's President Johnson and Lady Bird Johnson, my mother and father, myself, and my sisters Margie and Kathleen.
These photos on Craig McNamara's desk show brief moments in United States history. The late presidents, John F. Kennedy, Lyndon B. Johnson, and the former U.S. Secretary of Defense, Robert McNamara, Craig's father. He was only 10 years old when his father was selected for the cabinet position.
My father was picked up every day in a limousine that would take him to the Pentagon.
Craig remembers being supportive of his dad's role in the White House, but as he grew older, his beliefs started to change.
I began understanding that the war was wrong.
Of the dozens of trips his father took to Vietnam to survey damages from the war, Craig believes his father was not honest about what he saw and relied on optimism.
Leaving us an optimistic impression that our soldiers were winning, that our body counts were demonstrating that the National Liberation Front, the North Vietnamese, were dying at a much higher rate than ARVN and U.S. troops. And those of us who began to resist the war recognized that those were not truths.
Video from August 1964 shows Robert McNamara emphasizing the U.S. did not want to be heavily involved in the war.
We wish to emphasize we seek no wider war. Our response will depend upon the action of the aggressors, in this case the North Vietnamese. The key to the situation remains the cessation of infiltration from the north into the south.
I believe he knew at that time, in November of 1965, that the U.S. could not win this war.
Making Craig wonder why his father would continue the U.S.'s involvement in the war. The U.S. left Vietnam in March 1973. The fall of Saigon happened on April 30th, 1975.
There's a quote that my father has said that his loyalty was to the president. And I questioned my father. If he were here today, I would question him, why were you more loyal to your president than to the Constitution?
It's a question that's haunted Craig a majority of his life. In the 90s, decades after the war, Robert McNamara famously said he was wrong about his role in the Vietnam War. He wrote about his regrets in a memoir. As 2025 marks 50 years since the fall of Saigon, Craig was asked to be a part of a documentary with Vietnamese media professionals with one goal in mind.
I missed so many opportunities with my father to learn, to listen, and to help him change, and to help him apologize for his role in the Vietnam War. This amazing man who's 47 years old, he's a survivor of Agent Orange. Our nation applied 13 million gallons of Agent Orange across Vietnam. We forever changed the environment.
Craig is now a farmer and owns this property in Winters, growing walnuts and almonds. As a young adult, Craig says he moved to California to protest the United States' involvement in the Vietnam War. After a 2.5-year eye-opening trip through Central America, Craig says he realized he wanted to become a farmer.
I recognized the importance of food production, how important it is to all of our survival, and it is the crux of war. We produce enough food in this world to feed every child, every human being.
Sierra Orchards has been in Craig's family since 1980, in a never-ending journey to find a path forward with respect for the land and each other. In Winters, Jeannie Nguyen, ABC 10.
Craig McNamara also wrote a memoir on his perspective of his father's involvement in the war, titled Because Our Fathers Lied. Details on the book and also his farm, Sierra Orchards, can be found on our website, abc10.com.
Well, my dad was a real cowboy. They called him the Cowboy Colonel, Colonel West, Colonel Fraser West. My father rodeoed from the age of 12 to 92. He came here, he retired, and just fell in love with, this is Goldie Hawn. This is, he didn't fall in love with Goldie Hawn. Hi, baby.
These are Texas Longhorns, but this is not Texas.
Come on, here he comes. Come on, big boy, come on.
Welcome to West Haven Longhorns in Ione, California, an award-winning family-run cattle ranch that's been operating in the grasslands of Amador County since 1973.
He fell in love with their great maternal instincts, their amazing intelligence, their ability to breed and deliver without any help.
After her father passed in 2015, Sandra Westmore picked up where her dad left off and started running the ranch.
But with all Longhorns, you just have to go slow and respect they have big horns. He's checking you out.
Sandra, who's lived a colorful life as an actress and retired legal negotiator in the tech industry, approaches ranching in a different way than other ranchers would.
Hi, sweet boy. Can I? You notice I always ask permission? You don't just lunge in there.
Instead of forcefully herding the cattle, she uses kindness and a distinctive call to move the animals.
Come on, Rusty, come on! Come on! Come on! There, he's picked up the pace.
Sandra says her father chose to raise Longhorns because of their gentle nature and historical significance.
What are Longhorns exactly?
Longhorns are a very important breed in the United States. I bet you think they're from Texas?
Yeah.
No, they're not from Texas.
No.
Christopher Columbus brought the first Longhorns to America in 1493.
Sandra says the origins of Texas Longhorns can be traced back to Africa, but when they were brought to North America, the cattle lived a semi-feral existence on rangelands in Mexico and later in Texas and other parts of the U.S.
Can I ask you something about these horns here? Why are they so long?
Well, they're survival animals. So in the South, they developed into lateral shapes to knock the moss out of the tree. In the West, like her, they developed a more forward scoop to toss wolves.
Longhorns were a big part of the U.S. cattle industry until more favorable cattle breeds were introduced in the early 1900s. In fact, Texas Longhorns nearly went extinct had it not been for the U.S. Forest Service, who saved and bred a small herd on the Wichita Mountain Wildlife Refuge in 1927.
And now every Longhorn in the United States can trace their lineage back to the 1920s to the Wichita Reserve.
In the 1960s and 70s, popularity with raising Texas Longhorns made a comeback, and the Texas Longhorn Breeders Association of America was formed, and today, certain elite bloodlines with record-breaking horn lengths and fur patterns are sold at auctions for tens of thousands of dollars.
Well, some steers can go like 106, 107 because the testosterone goes into the horns instead of reproduction.
107 inches. That's
many feet.
Yeah.
Many feet.
Like any cattle ranch, Sandra raises longhorns for breed stock and beef. But these days, her main focus is carrying on the tradition of raising these historic animals.
If you raise these animals right, they're peaceful.
From the West Haven Longhorn Ranch in Ione, I'm John Bartel. Hope to see you on the back roads.
We know that in news, stories are filled with challenges and hardships, but incredible things are happening each and every day. And each week, our segment, Champions of Hope, we're sharing stories of people who are making a difference. Tonight, meet high school runners who are going the extra mile to give back.
What started as a small idea between 5 freshman runners,
we all wanted to be able to give back to our community as well,
turned into a big community impact. Vista Del Lago High School freshmen Jack Armstrong, Asher Chang, Rocco Drewers, Mino Kim, and Landon Simpson co-founded Lace Up for Learning, a charity run hosted in Folsom that raises money to give back to underserved communities.
We just saw that there was something that we could do.
A way to give back in a way that through what we love.
Around 100 runners signed up for their first event last year, raising over $12,000. Serving over 2,000 students in the area, Lace Up for Learning purchased scientific calculators, books, first aid supplies, a new projector, and food for different schools.
The community's connected through this.
Their event this year raised over $18,000. And from what these runners tell us, this is just the beginning.
Not only do I get to do something with my friends that I love to do, doing it helps a good cause.
We all extremely appreciate our community for supporting us, and we can't wait to have a great turnout in the following years to come.
And don't forget to let us know when that next race is. All right, if you have someone that you think is making a difference, of course, we would love to hear about it. You can always share a story with us by emailing the team to thepoint@abc10.com. Together, we can keep spreading a little bit of positivity, one story at a time.
Thanks so much for watching ABC 10 Plus this week. We're here 24/7 on the free ABC 10 Plus TV streaming app. You can get your local news and weather anytime, anywhere. I'm Laura Painter. Take care, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching ABC 10 Plus. And now that you're here, why don't we take a look around and see what else is here? The very first tile on your left is always going to be streaming 24/7. You can find us adjacent to that, breaking news if it's there. And then right next to that, a replay of the most recent newscast. Whether it's ABC 10 Morning News at 5, 6, or beyond, it's going to be there. The forecast beyond that, and then right beyond that, the news that matters the most. Now that you know the basic tiles, let's go up to the top and take a deeper dive into news. We have every single newscast that you would need, including To the Point with Alex Bell, taking a deeper dive into the issues. Beyond that, ABC 10 Morning News at 5 and 6 and 11, the evening shows as well. Below that, you can watch the top stories from To the Point. Under that, Dollars and Cents, where you can learn how to navigate this challenging economy. And below that, you can watch our award-winning ABC 10 Special Investigations, where we hold the powerful accountable. Going into weather, look, it's the 10-day forecast, getting you ready for the weekend and beyond. Beyond that, sports. I know you care about the Sacramento Kings. We have the most comprehensive guide to anything, everything Kings in the locker room and on the court. We have it. Below that, I know you care about the San Francisco 49ers. Backing out again, come up to the top and join me on Verify. I'm super excited about this. Our experts are checking the facts, verifying the truth for you. Jump up now to shows. Very excited about this. Oh, look. It's Take a Look. This is my show. I love movies, and if you love movies or streaming shows, whether it's on screens this big, or this big, it's Take a Look. Recently went behind the scenes, sat down with Lady Gaga and Joaquin Phoenix to talk about Joker 2. I love the movie, and oh, I just heard you shout you hate the movie. Jump in, we talk about it on this show. Other shows, Bartel's Backroads, go up and down the state of California, tank of gas getaways, one fuel cell getaway, like places like the Toy Museum. This is what kids did before they had screens. Over here, the Moaning Caverns of Calaveras County, one of the most coveted caves in all of California. You know, watching this show, I discovered there's a cave that could fit the entire Statue of Liberty in your own backyard. You'll find about that and more with Bartel's Backroads. Down below that, To the Point. It is one of my favorite newscasts because they talk about news with Alex Bell the way you talk about news. It's conversational, but in-depth at the same time. Below that, Your California Life. Love this show. Whether it's entertainment, food, beverage, lifestyle, it's there. Desiree Shepherd hosts and does an amazing job. So there you have it. It's ABC10 Plus, the app. What do you need? We heard you and we got it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for streaming.